5 seconds. You're live.
Let's call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. Seeing no one else recording this meeting, if you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Seeing no citizens to comment, no special recognitions, no acceptance of minutes from the last meeting. Do we have a student representative?
Seems we do.
Okay,
Ally?
well, we will move right on to the student representative's report. Ally, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. What do you have for us?
So the week before break, we had our winter carnival, which was just a competition between the 4 classes, which was like some athletic competitions, an art competition, and just like some other lunch games. That was a really enjoyable event for all the students, and it was a good way for everyone to get involved. For sports, Auburn girls hockey has their playoff game tonight, and this is the first playoff game that they've been in 15 years, so that's really exciting. And also some track athletes did really well in states, so they're going to make it all the way to the New England competition, and that's coming up soon. This morning, there was a meeting held for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors regarding course selections for next year. So within the next few weeks, those classes will be selecting the courses that they plan on taking the next year. This Saturday, there's a Model UN conference at BC High, so I know a lot of students are excited about that. And then next Friday, students leave for their ski trip to Jay Peak in Vermont, so that's another exciting event. And new members have been inducted into NHS, and an induction ceremony will be held in person with guests allowed on March 17th. So that's definitely a step up, because last year for my induction ceremony, outside guests weren't allowed, and the year before, I believe, was on Zoom. So it's that some of the restrictions are being lifted for COVID, and we're able to meet together for the ceremony. And that's all I have for tonight.
Well, that's some good stuff. A lot of nice things happening at school. Could you just tell us how it is to have everyone back at school with the masks off and being able to see everyone's faces? A little different feel there?
Yeah, definitely. It was a little bit strange at first, but it's nice. And I think it's a little bit more interactive, like with the teachers and the students, and being able to see like facial expressions instead of just having it being hidden by a mask.
That's great.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it so far.
Good.
Me too. Any questions or comments for Ally?
Hi, Allie. I have a freshman going on the J Peak trip, so if you older folks want to look out for the younger ones, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Yes, of course.
I'm sure they would do that anyway. Any other questions or comments for Ally?
Just thank you for your taking the time to give us your report. Thank you.
Of course.
Yep. Much appreciated, Ally. Have a nice evening. We'll see you next time.
You too. Thanks.
Thank
Thank you, Ally. Bye-bye.
All right, we now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in keeping with what seemingly was a very upbeat theme from Ally, I'm going to try and stay the same and give you a brief COVID update. As you can see from the emails I've sent out this week, our counts were a little high on Monday, with 7 cases reported on Monday, 1 yesterday, 1 today. So that's a good thing. We're hoping to stay the course with all of that. Gives us the faith that this was a good decision and that kids are staying safe, which is what we want. In kind of anecdotal observations by the principals, seemingly mask wearing, we have about 30% of our kids in most schools and staff still wearing masks, which is, completely acceptable, and everybody seems comfortable. There doesn't seem to be any angst about it, because quite frankly, I think everyone is so happy with the change overall in general. It's given quite a boost to everyone's spirits. Had a lot of good feedback from several teachers about how it just feels so much nicer. Even with some folks still wearing them, there's just a different tone and feel to the day. I think Ally reflected that in her comments as well. And I think in her list of activities that have happened show that, right, we're coming back to the things that we normally knew, and that just feels really good for everyone. So very upbeat times right now. So we're going to hope to stay the course with that. Another teacher did mention that the engagement of students is clearly different with one another, with the work, and with the teachers. So all good news. Just to let everyone know, test kits are still coming. They'll be sent home again tomorrow. We still have a lot of folks that are opting into that and are using our reporting system for that, so that's a good thing. But really, it's quite nice to not have a whole lot to say about COVID, so I'm going to
Yes.
stick with that.
Sure is. That's great.
Spoke with a kindergarten teacher who said the kids in the class just all day just smiled.
Yeah.
Just like smiled looking at her face. And it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a funny smirk, like,
Yeah,
am I
like-
supposed to be doing this? So no, but it was, and yeah, at least at the high school, the report that we got was like, some people had them, some people didn't, no big deal, nobody said boo, everybody was
Nobody
happy
cared.
doing what they did, so.
Yeah, they got to
Great.
do what they all wanted to do, and I think that is the difference, right? So if you want to, that's great, and if not, that's okay too.
There are actually situations where I'm sure they had never seen one another's faces, because some people are just religious about keeping that mask on, never pulling it down at all. And I know that happened to me with some new coworkers this year. I looked around and said, "Oh wow, that's what you look like."
Smiled at them.
For better or worse. But no, it was very interesting to see people, and you didn't know if they were smiling at you. You didn't know if they were welcoming you, and so yeah, for the ones that you see after school all the time, your friends, people that you're used to being around, that's one thing. But I bet you a lot of times they looked around and said, "Wow, that's that kid from out of town, or that's the student who just moved into town that I'd never met," and vice versa, for the student to be able to see some smiling faces, the newer students or newer staff members. It's just really a great thing. So yeah, all positive right now.
All good.
And spring is coming, so it's only going to get better.
Yep.
Wow, that was a quick one.
That was a quick one. Good
Figured I
news,
had to
we're
do a
sticking
little
to
bit
it.
of filler there. Okay, we now move on to everyone's favorite part of the evening, business and financial.
He missed you, Cecilia.
It's so nice to know we're in good hands with Cecilia.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Chamberlain and I have traded places. I have the longer one tonight, the longer presentations. So actually, in your packet, the Board of Selectmen voted to open the warrants for town meeting on February 14th with a closing date of March 7th. So I've placed a draft of the school department warrant articles that we want to submit for the annual town meeting for May 3rd, 2022. And I'll just briefly go over them briefly, and if there's any questions after, you can ask. Articles 1 through 4 are the standard articles requesting funds for Medicaid, the Auburn High School gym interest, the trust interest, McKinney-Vento homeless, and foster care transportation. The remaining articles, Mr. Fahey and I met to discuss the CIP and how we could possibly best utilize what we have in CIP in the most productive manner at this time. Articles 5 and 6 speak to the changing the purpose of the funds from Packagug Univent replacement work to the replacing of the boiler at Packagug School, which has recently become a critical need, and that wasn't anticipated in any of the CIP at this point, so we feel like that's a better move for our money with the CIP there. With regard to Articles 7 through 13, you'll remember that a while back we had gotten approval of the CIP funding for the removal of the oil tank at Swanson Road. Mr. Fahey had been hoping to remove and replace the oil tank with natural gas, but since that hasn't been able to be an option, that's kind of out of the question right now. And in keeping with the theme of the green community, we've been looking at converting the school from oil to a propane heating system. The original funds were allocated for the removal of oil tanks, so just to be politically correct, we felt like we should repurpose or change the language in the articles just to reflect that for the removal of the oil tank to replacing it with that propane, so that there would be no questions whatsoever in that. And we're hoping to have that all done by this summer, so that's our game plan for that. Articles 14 and 15 speak to moving money from Auburn High School in the amount of $8,704.92, which is not needed. We finished those CIP projects that were as part of that article, so that money is remaining. So we're looking to repurpose that money, along with monies that were in the Bryn Mawr rehab, to be used for finishing the final phase of the Bryn Mawr sprinkler, and adding on the condensate, I think I'm saying that right, it's Mr. Fahey's word, condensate tank for the steam boiler. You'll recall back originally we had started the sprinkler project when we had the addition of the modular at Bryn Mawr, and the project, when it came in, we bid it out and it came in a lot higher than what we anticipated for pricing. So we were able to break it down into 3 different phases. Phase 1 and 2 are complete, and this will assist in the final, completing the final phase. So I would ask for your approval of the articles so that we can submit them to town meeting for the May 3rd, 2020 town meeting. And if there's any questions on any of them, I'm happy to answer.
I would entertain that motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant articles for the annual town meeting on May 3rd, 2022 as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Any questions?
I just have one question. Is Bryn Mawr the last school to get a sprinkler system, or do we still have others that won't have sprinkler systems?
I believe all the schools are sprinklered. It was just when we added the modular, they told us we needed to add the additional sprinkler system for the building to complete it and make it up to code. And they gave us a period of time to do it. We didn't have to do it immediately because we
Right.
had to come up with the money to do it. And it's been quite costly.
Yeah, I thought it was like 300,000 or something.
Yeah, it was quite a bit. So we've been trying to chip away at it, and we've gotten phase 1 and 2 done, and we're just trying to finish the last phase so we can be done with it and be, up to code and everything.
So then when this is finished, we're done with sprinklers as far
Yes,
as all the
yes,
schools go?
yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
That's great.
Okay, so you voted, I'm sorry, okay. So in addition to that,
No, we didn't vote yet.
Oh,
We're just still
okay.
discussion.
all right, sorry. Because I had
Can
something
vote.
to add on to
No,
that.
that's
but-
okay. Any other discussion?
No.
No? Did you have something to add as part of discussion or after the vote?
Well, it's something else that kind of needs your vote of approval, but I can talk about it now if you want. I mean, it's, when Mr. Fahey and I were talking, we felt that we were looking at the FY 2023 CIP, which we had already previously voted on, and I've included that in your packet as well. And we were looking to see if we could take, we had originally had 80,000 for 2023 for flooring upgrades and window upgrades at Bryn Mawr, and we were hoping to use that 80,000 as a buffer because we just don't want to run out of money. We just want to be able to finish the sprinkler system, get it done, and have enough money to do that, because Mr. Fahey was concerned about not having the monies we needed. So we're just trying to make sure all our ducks are in a row. So I would need your approval to do that, and I would submit both the warrant articles and the 2023 CIP to the town manager for the town meeting.
So do we have a second motion for that, or are you tying that into this motion?
Would you prefer to do it together? Or, I mean, we can have a second motion if you want. I was just looking to change the 2023 CIP for Bryn Mawr flooring and window upgrades to completion of the Bryn Mawr sprinkler project.
Probably should be a second motion.
That should be a second.
Yeah, let's just amend that motion to reflect those changes to the FY 2023 budget. So,
Let's do it together.
Yeah,
all right. So in addition to Jesse's original motion, we would also like to add to that the changes to the 2023 fiscal budget to do away with the $40,000 flooring upgrade, the $40,000 continue window upgrades, and that's it, just those 2 items, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Yes, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there's a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. That was quite a lot to go through. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
We're just trying to get everything organized and better allocated. The next thing is the French River Collaborative Oil Bid. Each year, we participate with French River to procure the oil for the district's buildings with area districts and for the upcoming year. So the French River bid was opened on February 2nd and awarded on February 3rd. There were 3 bidders, with one of the vendors being deemed non-responsive. Peterson Oil was awarded, and that's who we currently have, was awarded the bid at $2.90 a gallon, being the lowest responsible and responsive bidder for fuel oil for FY 2023. I've attached the bid oil analysis for your review. It represents a $1.20 increase per gallon from this past year's pricing, which was we were very lucky with the pricing that we did have. However, in planning ahead, Mr. Fahey and I, when going through the budgets, in formulating FY '23, we did take into consideration that we didn't know the price of the oil per gallon, and also with the current market conditions being so volatile, we kind of built in a little bit of cushion there, so we will be fine. We went back and looked at those numbers, and we'll be fine with that. So I just wanted to assure you of that.
Good.
So I'm looking for your acceptance of this, and I'd happy to answer any questions.
I would entertain that motion.
Make a motion to accept the fuel oil award made by the French River Collaborative on behalf of the Auburn Public Schools to Peterson Oil at the price of $2.90 a gallon for fiscal year 2023.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There's a vote.
Okay. I know it's very high, but I'm in spite of what's going on in the world right now, it's
Yeah.
it's probably best that we did lock in. 'Cause
Lock in
who
now.
knows?
Absolutely.
Right,
So I'm happy
absolutely.
about that, so. So next on my docket is a year-to-date budget report, which I provided in your packet, dated February 24th for your review. And I've also included with that a listing of budget transfers, with most of them being in the same series for your information. And I believe there's one listing between different series for which I'm seeking your approval.
I would entertain that motion.
Make a motion to approve the list of transfers dated February 24th, 2022, as presented by the business manager.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. There's a vote.
Thank you. And for my last item, the 2022-23 bus transportation registration forms, they've been placed on the district website, and the deadline to register is June 1st, 2022. All students wishing to ride the bus in the coming year must register regardless of whether they need to make a payment. Once again, we're going to be using the Zip Slip program for online registration and convenience for families. Payments can be made online with Unipay or can be dropped off and mailed with a completed registration to the Central Office Administration Building, 5 West Street. We will not accept applications at the school departments, and we've said that in the last few years, but I just wanted to reiterate that because every year people say we dropped it off at the school, so it needs to come here. We also have, if people want to fill out their registration forms and drop a check, we have the mailbox in front, so if it's after hours for the convenience, that works too, and we check that every day. So all registrations must be postmarked by June 1st or received in the mail by 4 p.m. or not in the mail, but postmarked by June 1st or received at West Street by 4 p.m. on the 1st to avoid the late fee. Late fees will not be waived, and every child, there's no family cap, so each child will be charged the $100 late fee. And I was just going to say, avoid the rush and send in your registrations now, which I know some of you have already done, so thank you. And that's my report for tonight.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? No? Excellent, as always. I would just add to the end of the meeting, if this is in fact the end, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Chamberlain if need be, but we have a letter in front of us from Julie Jacobson, Town Manager, regarding open meeting law and ethics training. So you've probably already received the email. Now you have the hard copy, so Mandy's really putting the push on us right now to respond to that. So if you could just email back to Mandy. I don't think we need a show of hands or a vote, but she does mean business, so let's shoot her an email and just let her know whether or not we are going to attend that session. And I guess you can do it via Zoom as well. Dr. Chamberlain, did you have anything?
Just to say, I know this is a very brief meeting, but you can see we had several important things that did need to come before you. I apologize for the mix-up with the dates, but that seems to be a lot of organization with the town and the finance and all those committees getting together, so it did need to get pushed off. So I thank you for your patience, and for coming this evening.
No worries at all.
Nope.
Any other concerns, anything? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is a vote. Good night, everyone.
You can, oh, she, thumbs up, we can see it, thanks, Julie.
Can she
Thank
hear
you.
us?
Yay,
Oh, now we can't see anything?
There we go.
well, we got it right here, so we don't need to see. All right.
Okay, finally, let's get the
Finally.
show on the road. Thank you for all the members who are participating tonight. Much appreciated. So this is a culmination of about 6 to 8 weeks of sitting down, compiling data, having hearings with the department heads, and leading up to a recommendation that we presented to the Board of Selectmen on Monday evening, who took a vote, unanimous vote to send it off to the Finance Committee. That being said, we do have a brief presentation for you tonight. We did make the books available for the Board of Selectmen about 10 days ago on Friday. They had an opportunity to review it. I know you just received your books most recently. May have not had the opportunity, so I'm going to try to pull everything together for you tonight in summary form, which will lead off to maybe some considerations tonight, and then we have a schedule that we'd like to run by you in terms of what the expectation is over the next 6 weeks.
Yep.
So before you tonight, a recommendation from Town Administration is asking for total appropriations of $78,118,961.82, offset by an equal amount of revenue, leading to a balanced budget at this point. This recommendation utilizes, at this point, roughly 1.26% of Prop 2.5, or 50.34% of Prop 2.5. When we look at total revenue sources, the growth of revenue from current fiscal year to the recommended budget before you tonight is 2.68, as well as a 2.68 growth factor in appropriations. As we break it down by revenue source, our local receipts is up by about 409,000, or just shy of 4%. Cherry sheet revenue, very encouraging. This is using the governor's recommendation. It's up roughly 1.8 million, or 12.07%. Our tax levy utilizes just under 1.1 million, or 2.54%. That includes new growth. When you back new growth out, it gets us back to the 1.26. Our debt exclusion is going down by about 65,000, or just shy of 2%. And our available funds, a decline of 1.3, primarily that of free cash, which we would consider in the fall, down about 39.82%. I'm not going to get into the appropriations. You can see our recommendation. It's supported by the documentation in your 3-ring binder. But as you can see, bottom line, is our $78,118,861. Some of the notables that are driving on the appropriation side in terms of new positions, we have recommended 2 school licensed practical nurses. Also in the school department, there's 1 ABA, full-time position. There's a .6 position for a school strings teacher. And there are 2 assistant golf coaches. These are stipend positions that's been recommended in the budget. On the town side, we are recommending a full-time police deputy chief starting 1/1/2023. We are recommending a part-time conservation agent. This has been asked for a number of years, paid strictly through the Conservation Fund, which is allowable under MGL. No tax levy money for that. And in the golf course, we are recommending a golf club manager. There was a reassignment of duties for the individual that was working up there. And so we had to make sure operationally we're able to handle the public during the day and on the weekends. And this is offset by a user fee that was approved by the Packagug Oversight Committee. I think the fees are going up $2. I can give you that information as a result of the minutes that were provided to us. Also, we increased the salary and wage reserve account. It's being increased because we're currently negotiating a number of contracts that are having an impact beginning July 1. We also increased our reserve account to address some of the inflationary impacts that we addressed through when Joanna came before you, such as fleet. And there are some other areas that I'll get into a little later on in the presentation that make up those accounts. We know that our Bay Path assessment is going to increase by about 19% as a result of 19 new students being enrolled in that program for the coming year. Once again, I indicated to you earlier, we increased our fleet maintenance by about 10% due to escalating costs and repairs. We increased snow and ice to reflect anticipated salt and driver wage increases as a result of supply and demand. And we have a 23% increase in the Packagug Golf Course budget as a result of clubhouse manager and seasonal help. Here's a listing of our revenue. As you can see, we are estimating new growth at $450,000. Once again, we believe that to be conservative at this time, but very cautious about the fact that if it does come in lower than the 5-year average, we want to be prepared to address that without making budgetary cuts. As you can see, we're using roughly 83.78% of the available levy. That's why we have so much excess levy capacity, because we're not taxing at 100%. Here's a listing of our available funds as it compares to FY22. Our cherry sheet state aid is going from $14,932,000 to $16,734,000, $1.8 million bump. And our local receipts are primarily level funded. We did make an adjustment for hotel motel. We're seeing a comeback as a result of COVID in that account, and a slight bump in meals tax. Everything else is basically level funded at this time until we have a better handle on our year-to-date actuals, and we won't know that until sometime in late June. Here's our 5-year average on new growth. As you can see, over the last 5 years, we averaged about $730,000. We're estimating $450,000. If we were to realize a year like we had in '22, $769,000, that would be about a $300,000 bump. We could utilize that $300,000 bump to continue to dilute the tax rate, or we can use it for some other need or priority that may be identified through your discussions with the departments. Here's a listing of our local receipts. As you can see, we made a significant bump in hotel motel from $266,000 to $600,000. So right now, we're on course probably to get about $750,000. I didn't want to utilize the full amount of money only because I didn't know if there was a delay in the receipts, or there may be, through cause and effect through COVID, that we may take a step backwards. In summary, we have revenues and expenses equaling each other at $76,118,951.82. It utilizes, once again, 1.26 out of 2.5, which would leave a allowable 2.5 still available of $629,777. Some of the priorities that we want to bring to your attention as a result of our deliberations with the department heads. We want to continue to increase roadway reconstruction. We did make another bump this year to 515. The high water mark for roadway reconstruction pre-COVID was 535. We're getting an indication that there may be some pothole monies coming from the state, some additional roadway money, which will allow us to delay getting back to the 535 if we're getting some state revenue in. That will give us some flexibility in addressing our potholes and our roads. Once again, a priority through discussions with the provisional chief and the provisional lieutenant. They'd like to see a change in the command staff that would create a deputy police chief position. We're currently going through a human resource study. We got a state grant that gave us $20,000. That study is currently underway. We do not know the results of that study, but it may require some enhancements and some changes in the way we deal with our HR issues on both the town and the school side. We've had close and ongoing discussions with the school superintendent relative to this position and realize the importance of bringing someone on with some expertise. So we may be coming to you at a later date, or maybe even during this next 6 weeks, to make some recommendations in the area of HR. We want to continue to close the tax classification gap. I know the board is considering adopting a policy to address that, but we are, once again, we recognize the importance of a continued march towards a single tax rate. And we want to continue to earmark tax levy money towards our OPEB liability. Unfortunately, we were forced to strip that away when we cut $1.3 million out of the operating budget, when we had a significant revenue loss as a result of COVID. So we want to get back to a position where we want to incrementally add tax levy towards our OPEB liability. Some of the areas of concern relative to inflation. Motor vehicle fuel. I think we're all seeing the effects of what's going on in the world economy. Supply and demand with with summertime coming up. I think we're all seeing the cost of fuel go up. Mm-hmm. We did increase our fuel account in the FY23 budget, and at the time we did that, it was not cognizant of what we're seeing now, so we may have to do a further adjustment on fuel. We're also concerned about a potential fuel adjustment for our solid waste collection. There is a provision in the contract that allows for escalating cost of fuel. It would be diesel in terms of solid waste collection. That may trigger an additional cost on that end. Certainly, we don't know if, I think we can all assume if motor vehicle fuel is going to go up, heating oil is going to go up. Mm-hmm. Natural gas may go up, so we're concerned about those areas as well. Electricity costs we're concerned about. General liability insurance, especially everything going on with cybersecurity, may trigger some increased premiums. We just do not know yet until we go out to bid. Mm-hmm. Our healthcare costs, we always concerned about that, although we believe the amount that we had recommended in our budget will be adequate enough to meet our FY23 not only employee but employer costs. Mm-hmm. Snow and ice, we've had a difficult winter so far. I can tell you that we most definitely will end up in a deficit balance. Mm-hmm. Although we are allowed to raise that on the recap, mm-hmm. under under Chapter 44, Section 31. I think it's important to at least consider a potential increase for FY '23, which we did increase. We may have to increase that even more if we're seeing a increase in salt costs and increase in, well, a private driver snow plowing costs. And we've also seen an increase in our retirement costs. I think COVID-19 has led to some premature retirements, people getting out early. We know that's going to have an impact, long-term impact, on our annual assessment. We may not seen that spike yet, but certainly I wanted to put that on the radar screen as a potential, not only for FY '23, but for future years as well. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point in time. And so let me just log out here, and I will come back up to the
Oh, he's gonna do it?
let me just go to here. Trying to get this screen back to you, Ann.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking to see if I should be doing it from here. Oh, good.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Thank you, Ed. All right, so, members, do we have any questions?
I have a couple.
Yes, Patrick?
Through the chair, Ed, could you just elaborate? You said one of the priorities and objectives were to address human resources, and I'm just wondering if there's a focus on either retention, succession planning, management training, filling gaps. Is there a focus on what HR, the study is hoping to bring to the surface? Is there a focus for it?
So I think one of our, well, there are several areas that we were concerned with. In terms of consistency, I think we were lacking in that area because basically we had an HR person on our side, the school had an HR person on their side, and they were kind of running independently. And I think there's some matters of general liability that we were concerned with.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that we're consistent. As a governmental entity, we want to make sure that we're consistent with all our employees as it relates to mandates, as it relates to COVID requirements.
So is there, of the two HR people or individuals on both sides, is there not like, say, one person who would actually have jurisdiction over all of the benefits? So are you saying the HR director at the schools was actually administering their own benefit plan, and the HR person in City Hall on the town side was administering their own benefits? Is that one of the concerns?
So
that
in
there's
terms of benefits, we did have one individual that handled both town and school.
both, so there are some areas of them that are consolidated, and then there are some parts of it that are separated.
Right, but from the personnel perspective, they were running independently.
Right, okay.
So, those kind of inconsistencies can come back to bite you. So we
Sure,
want-
yeah.
So we're looking to hire a professional that can oversee all of the operations of both.
That's a really good objective and a really good priority. The other question is on the concern side. I believe in most, and I don't know if they've combined them yet, I know in a lot of insurance policies, cybersecurity is falling underneath general liability. Is it still there, or are they starting to, I don't believe that they are taking cyber out of general liability, but they are starting to audit cities and towns to find out what their risk is, and for obvious reasons. Are we still, we don't have a cyber policy, it still falls
No,
under?
we do have a
You have a
cyber policy, it's a separate policy.
Right. And so, right, and, you know,
But I mean, you hear horror stories out there.
Oh, yeah.
I think the town of Quincy got billed for $3.5 million.
somebody just paid a vendor for over $100,000 and sent a wire out, and it was fraudulent
So
because of not having checks and balances in place.
we're training our employees. It's really become an important piece of concern. We've gotten a state grant. We're training our employees. I just got notified the other day to change an employee's direct deposit. I reached out to the employee, I said, is this authentic? And they said, I never sent it. So these are the kind of things that we have to make our employees aware of. And in terms of risk management, the insurance companies really put in a primary focus on cybersecurity.
Sure.
So, I mean, we believe that because it's a primary focus, it's one element of insurance. There are many elements. We have settlements, we have workers' comp, we have IOD. So it's experience rating, they're gonna look at a number of things. I'm just putting on the radar screen that it's something of concern that we need to keep our eye on the ball.
Great. And my last one on priorities and objectives, again, on the OPEB liability for post-employment benefits, is the actual finance management team here in the city with the manager, the town manager, Ms. Jacobson, actually overseeing the policy, or is there a subgroup or an investor that's managing the OPEB liability currently via a policy? Or if you could just maybe give me a little insight on the structure of the management of
So
it.
we do have an investment firm that handles our OPEB liability trust. But in terms of, there should be a separate committee formed.
Right.
That has not happened yet.
Okay. Does that require a motion by the selectmen or the finance committee to?
Well, I think it should be driven by a policy that we submit to the Board of Selectmen and they adopt.
Okay.
So that's something we'll be working on. But we were one of the pioneers, quite honestly, of jumping out early and starting to fund our OPEB trust. And that liability changes significantly from actuarial to actuarial, all depending on rate of returns and things of that nature.
And your investment risk and the policies of the portfolio and the whole.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, we reached a high water mark of 56 million as our unfunded liability. It went down as low as 29 million. It's back up to 37
Well,
million.
that's, part of it is altering the risk, and without risk, you can't get return. So, and if it's, I'm just asking because it also merits that some of them don't even keep up with the pace of inflation.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's the case, but there's a lot of factors that go into something like this. So that's why I was questioning whether there would be a committee or a group. Like you said, it's being driven by policy, and it's down as a priority and objective, so it shows you have your eye on it. But I would say that it would be important for the town to get something in place for that, to maybe even offset some of the burden of the rest of the management of the town to focus on other things. It's something that's not going to go away.
Yeah, so.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Ed?
No, I'm good for now. I mean, it was a really good presentation with all the information.
Okay. Kevin, do you have any questions?
Just relative to positions, do we want to discuss positions as the individual departments are discussed, or are the current positions requested? Obviously, the part-time folks, they are what they are. But as far as the other, are they based upon certain data, or are they based upon reorganization plans with new org charts? And just, I don't know if you want to discuss it now or wait for those individual departments.
Yeah, well, because I think operationally, these decisions are being made for a number of reasons, so I think it would be best to have the department heads address why they requested these positions. I know the school positions, for instance, the LPNs are for a one-on-one, but beyond that, I would rely on the department heads to to convey to you why they think these positions are needed.
Thank you. All set. How about our members who are joining us virtually? Trevor, do you have any questions about the budget?
No, not at this time.
Thank you, Trevor. How about Michael?
I'm all set, thank you.
Thank you. So I just have one question at this point. That's a big increase in the cherry sheet receipts. And we're using the governor's numbers?
Governor's numbers.
How certain are we? I mean, if you're putting it in here, usually you're pretty certain about it. Are you pretty sure that we'll be able to get that?
So historically, we always find that the governor's numbers are probably the most conservative. Although as of late, they seem to mirror what the House and the Senate ultimately vote. I don't think you'll see much deviation from this recommendation. Although there's a lot of money out there, and whether or not there is, a move by either the House or the Senate to earmark some other funds for other purposes, other than what the governor has recommended, we're not sure. So I think the next set of numbers we'll see are the House numbers, probably due out at the end of March, in that ballpark. I think that will give us some confidence, once that comes out, whether our numbers will hold or not.
Okay, good, thank you. And any other questions?
It's interesting, the Bay Path, 19% increase with 19 students. I was trying to think of how many students in total. So is 19 students?
Over and above the current count?
So right now, I think the 23 numbers that are driving that assessment is 118 students.
Okay.
We're currently at 99.
I actually did have one other question. You mentioned there'd be some people starting to come next week, some departments. Would it be possible before Wednesday night to get the schedule of who's expected, just as a courtesy to look
Yes.
through their budgets?
We do have a
That's what we do.
tentative schedule
Yeah,
Well,
that I
attended,
worked with
okay.
Sharon on.
perfect. yeah.
Great.
Well, we have to sprinkle in a few of the smaller ones. I don't think she captured all of them, but the major ones are.
Okay. All right, so we'll take a look at that at the end, thank you. If we don't have any other questions, let's take a look at a few of these budgets. There are some that we can look at that are pretty straightforward. The first budget is the moderator. The fiscal 22 appropriation, $296, department request, $296, and that's also what the town manager recommends. So, our options here are to recommend, not recommend, and I believe, well, we don't have to vote to hold. We don't have to, if we don't want to vote on something today, we want to vote on something at a upcoming meeting, we don't need to take a vote to do that. So we can say motion to recommend or motion to not recommend.
I'd make a motion to recommend on this one.
Second.
Okay, so a motion to recommend the moderator line, $296. So all in favor, let me do the roll call again. Trevor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, thank you.
But I'll say yes.
Hmm?
Yes as well, I think you missed me.
Oh, sorry, all right. Kevin is yes also, all right. That's why, all right. Okay, so, select board is next. All right, let's see, the total fiscal 22 appropriation is $10,737. The amount that's being requested for fiscal 2023 is also $10,737. And that's also the amount that the town manager recommends. Do we have any questions on that?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion to recommend. So all in favor, Trevor,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So that's recommended. All right, next is the town manager department. Okay, so That's Executive Office of Town Manager. All right, so that's, Executive Office of Town Manager.
What number is that one under?
01129,
Okay, thank you.
129. So the total appropriation for fiscal '22, that's the year we're in now, is $415,388. The department request for fiscal '23, $436,529, and that is an increase of $21,141, or 5.09%. So let's see, do we have any questions on this budget?
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion to recommend and a second. So all in favor, let me do a roll call. Trevor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, so that is recommended. Next, we'll look at Finance Committee.
I say we throw that in the trash.
Scrutinize it.
Oh, it increased.
It's an increase for the first time in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the fiscal '22 appropriation for Finance Committee is $815, and the department request for fiscal 2023 is $1,015. That's an increase. We haven't seen that for a long time. And that is due to the printing costs increasing. So it's an extra $200, and that's being requested, and that's due to increase in printing costs. Okay, do we have any questions?
I say motion to approve before we lose it.
Yeah. Motion to recommend.
Motion to recommend.
Second?
Second, okay, great. So we have a motion to recommend in a second. So all in favor, Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you. Michael?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So now let's look at our next department. That is the Law Department. It's 151. So there are three accounts here: General Counsel, Negotiator, and Special Litigation. The appropriation for the year we're in now is $145,000, and the department request is the same. Department request for fiscal 2023 is $145,000. Could I ask, Mr. Kazanovich, where are we this year in our, I don't know if you don't have it,
No, I
that's
have it,
fine.
I have a year-to-date.
All right, I'm just wondering where we are now. I see it's been pretty consistent. Well,
So general counsel, we've expended roughly about half
oh, okay.
year-to-date.
And that's through February,
This is
Through
This is
January?
actually through today.
through today. That's
Yeah.
even better.
But
We're
there
more
may-
than halfway through the year.
But February's bills may not be paid yet,
Okay.
all right, so.
So we're at
it
least
may-
halfway
it's
through.
Probably 7 months through.
Okay.
Negotiator. Out of 50, we've expended 16 with a remaining balance of 33. Special litigation, we have the full amount of 10. So we're doing okay this year.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Kazanovich.
Just a question regarding, do we, for general counsel, do we, I know it's been Attorney Hannigan forever, but do we enter into a contract with them for them to be our counsel, or how does that work in terms of, the billing schedule, and how do we know how much?
Yeah, no, there's an agreed-upon rate contractually, hourly rate,
Thank
for
you.
both labor and general counsel.
But there's not a set fee to enter into that contract, and then hourly beyond that?
No.
It's straight?
Just straight hourly.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Motion to recommend?
I just want to, I'm sorry, it's a 3-year average. I was going to make sure it wasn't a typo because I saw 41 and 14, but it's a 3-year average. So,
All right, so I hear a motion to recommend and a second. So, all in favor, let's do a roll call. Trevor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
yes.
And myself, yes. So that budget's recommended. And the last one we're going to look at tonight is the human resources budget. Okay, that fiscal 2022 appropriation, the year we're in now, $81,091. Department request is $82,572. That's an increase of 1.83%. And those are due to increases in the salary line and clerical line.
Madam Chair, just a question relative to that?
Yes,
So, Eddie, the human resources study.
Yeah.
Has a study happened already? Or is that going out?
I believe all the field work has been done, the report is being
Created?
created.
So as a result, when do we anticipate that coming back? And based upon the results of that study, could there be significant changes to, how soon will we make changes? Should it say you should have an overall director and that position would fall under this department, correct?
So if the report does suggest the director, we've had discussions with schools that it'd be like a shared position, so we would absorb a portion of that, they would absorb a portion of that. I just don't know initially if that's gonna be a full-time position or a part-time position, we don't know. But certainly, I think someone with some legal expertise needs to fill that position. But we're probably looking at maybe 30 to 45 days out, if I were to estimate. So I would suggest that you can vote this as is. If we need to come back and ask you to reconsider or amend it, we would do so through that process.
okay, thank you.
Because in recent years, you've done quite a bit to sort of, my understanding in the past, even some of the HR functions fell to yourself and Julie.
Yes.
And you parse that off, a lot of the benefit stuff. They even have their own office space, which, those are all in the last couple of years. Am I correct? We sort of decided to make an HR department for the town, and this is sort of the next step, and
Right, so like, for instance, Julie and I are sitting and negotiating at the table now. This individual would be somewhat involved in that. Any grievances, any things of that nature, this individual would be responsible for, and that would kind of relieve Julie and I from performing these functions. Would be assigned to this individual.
But if it truly were, and again, we have to wait to see what the study says, but if it came back as a director of HR
Yeah.
was the recommendation, and you would go that way, I mean, that would be a significant position within the town, a department head. I imagine, based on the resume that you'd probably be looking for and things of, you just mentioned, legal expertise and HR background.
Yeah.
So we could see a big addition to this potentially.
Right, so, well,
Not adding another clerk's position.
when you look at it, both town and school, it would be a significant number. But when you divide it up, it's manageable, so.
So it's important to keep in mind that this is an $82,000 recommendation, but it's only on the city side. There's probably a matching amount on the other side, so we're really looking at more like close to $175,000 managing our HR services. And then you're probably trying to stay within the scope of that, but just shifting some of the responsibility.
The HR responsibilities are really divided up amongst a number of people, like you indicated, Kev. Julie and I,
Right.
and Deb Du Bois, and the schools, and,
Right. Well, because one of the things and why you're bringing that up is you have medical exams on here.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, because it's going up, if it's because we anticipate hiring and we're going to need to cover costs for onboarding.
yes. So,
Because you're jumping from 6 to 9. So I'm thinking you're onboarding and you're going to need exams and other onboarding costs.
well, the 22 is 9, so that's level funded. So,
Oh, it was 9.
Yeah.
You're keeping it, oh, right.
Yeah.
The 3-year average column is throwing me off on where it's sitting. I keep thinking it's fiscal year '21. Okay.
So I think we're seeing more turnover. And so when you have turnover, you bring in new people, you have medical
You have,
exams. so-
right, you have medical expenses and onboarding,
Yeah.
right?
But we also have savings on salaries, because they go back to the first
Yes.
step, but you have retirement, so there's, it ends up in multiple places, those.
Right.
Those numbers. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend in a second. All in favor, let me do the roll call. Trevor?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, so that is recommended. That was the list that we're going to look at today. So now we'll, Ed, do you want to, let's talk about the departments that you said that you and Sharon have arranged to come in and see us.
So we're proposing, schools would like to come in next week on March 9th. The following week, we're proposing public safety, police, fire, and emergency management. Now, we reached out to these department heads. They're on board with these dates, so. The following week, March 23rd, we have Department of Public Works, all divisions. That would include Packagug Golf. March 30th would be DDIS and all its divisions, as well as solid waste.
Who is it?
It's the Department of Development and Inspectional Services,
Okay.
which includes Health, Planning, Economic Development, Building Conservation Commission, Animal Control, ZBA, and Solid Waste. And we would still need, I didn't know if you were gonna go a little deeper tonight, but we would have finance, library, senior center, and cable, debt and interest, employee benefits. So I think, those are the ones we can sprinkle in
Yes.
on another week, or we can try to, however you want to handle it.
Were we able to coordinate with Bay Path again? I know it was helpful last year. I think it was the first time in my tenure they were actually here.
We try to link that up with the school department next week, but I think they have a school committee meeting to address their budget next week. So I wanted them to get through their budget process.
Yep.
Even though we have a preliminary assessment, still has to be voted by the school committee. So we can line that up and bring them in.
I think it was helpful. I think it's
Yeah.
saying that, a weird formula that we're not,
The magic formula to figure out
yes,
what the magic, yeah. It is.
all magic.
A lot of magic. So, my question, so obviously the finance department and the benefits and debt and interest is something Ed can take care of when we have some time, if we have some extra time. And then we probably do want to have the library come in and the senior center.
So we have beyond the 30th, if my math is correct, we'll have April 6th.
Is the last date. We have to approve it by then. Right?
I think we'd have to provide them, because I think the
Well,
following
the
week.
30th is week 4, and then 4/6 is the 5th week.
Well, according to the budget timeline here, it says approval of budget by Finance Committee, April 6th. Because it
Right.
has to be approved in time to be copied and all
So
sent
we have
out.
to put a meeting on a non-Wednesday?
Oh, is the 6th not a Wednesday?
No, the 6th is, but it's only 5 meetings. I didn't know if we were going to wrap all these up in 4 or 5 meetings.
I think we could,
Sure.
yeah,
I think we can too.
yeah.
And that would leave the following week after 6 to take a position on the warrant articles.
Yep.
And just a reminder, when the departments do come in as scheduled, the review of their capital will be done at the same time.
Yes, yep, so we'll take a look at the capital
Yep.
budget also. And that's in here, right?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So, perhaps you could just check, or Sharon could just check and see about having the library or senior center, come in. And since it's just one department, maybe we could take care of them first and then do all of the other department that was scheduled to come in, because they're so large.
If we are running tight, is the Finance Committee willing to start earlier than 6:30 to? So we can,
That's up to the I can, it's up to the members.
I can be here I can just stay here. So, yeah,
Never leave?
yeah.
Okay.
I think as long as the hybrids option gives some folks that have
Yes.
potential commutes
Yeah.
some more flexibility.
I can
so
come
just keep that in
earlier.
mind. I mean, we'll see how we're running, and if we have to.
There may be a couple of
Start
times where
early
it
or
will help.
extend, then,
It may help on a couple of the larger ones,
Yes.
like with the police and public safety and stuff like that.
Yes.
We may be able to just extend those meetings to get those big groups through.
Michael, did you have a question or a comment?
No, sorry about that.
Okay, good, I just want to make sure. All right, so, so that's a consideration also, starting at 6. We used to have meetings that went to I remember being here till 10:30. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
so I'd be willing to at least discuss like finance and debt and interest after the school department
Exactly.
next week, if you want
Yep.
to do that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's helpful having the ones
Yeah,
that
I don't
we
think
could-
school department is going to be a,
Okay, great,
I think that wrap that up in about an hour, and then we can
yes.
get into some other budgets.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right?
Yes. Any other questions?
Did we have minutes to approve? Because I didn't see any.
No,
Good.
I
Okay.
did not see any, no. Okay, so, oh, Sharon, hi.
Hi, no, there were no minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you've written that down, right? Schools, public safety, DPW, DDIS, okay? So if there are no other questions, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Night.